been a very long time, but I'm really happy that we finally got some new Ice Snow trait and Hexeblaumon support. Ever since these cards came out, I've been playtesting a ton. And here was my pure build. As much as I'd like to stick to the original archetype of the entire line, I found a lot of challenges when it comes to facing against the meta. We can all agree that Hexeblaumon is probably one of the best SR cards, if not the best SR card from EX7. Being able to bottom deck your opponent's tamers, stun the entire board, have Ice Clad, and Security +1 is a whole load of fantastic effects. But it lacks protection. Now normally that wouldn't be an issue if the deck itself has enough aggro tools to finish the game before that even happens, but it doesn't really have that either. Stripping away sources from your opponent's Digimon is a really great way to weaken them, but often enough it doesn't prevent the opponent's Digimon from coming out from raising and rebuilding into another stack just to deal with Hexeblaumon. So in order to make the deck as viable as it can be to face off against the meta, there's going to be a lot of big changes. But what if I told you there's actually a combo where you can do 4 checks on your opponent's security out of nowhere? There is one card that consistently helps execute this combo, and that is the EX6 Hexeblaumon. If you're not too sure how that works, don't worry, stick around for the combos, but let's go ahead and talk about the build first. For Digi 8 cards, I'm running BT7 Bukamon, and that's really important because it helps you gain a memory when you play a Digimon back from your source, which is directly to help you synergize with Hexeblaumon. To further bridge off of this, I'm running Betamon as my main choice of rookie. Not only has jamming, which is really important to make sure that your Hexeblaumon doesn't get deleted in security, it also has the on-play effect when you play off Hexeblaumon, you can actually stun down your opponent's Digimon to prevent it from attacking for one whole turn. And when it came to the original build, I felt like there wasn't enough memory gain, and that is where Lunamon comes in being really important. Not only can bounce itself to gain memory at the start of main, you can actually synergize it with Galgamon, which we'll talk more about later on too. As for the Ice Snow trait specific Digimon, I'm only running one Bluecommon and Snow Agumon. That is because Bluecommon doesn't have a whole lot of search targets in my particular build, and as for Snow Agumon, it's nice to have Ice Clad at times just as a form of removal. To sum up for the rest of the rookies, I'm running 2 Automamons as my main Floodgate choice. For level 4s, there's Paljamon, which is great for early jamming and blocker and stripping sources. And the main level 4 I really want to highlight on is Galgamon. Not only has jamming, which is really important that I mentioned earlier, but also giving you draw power to get additional resources. It can actually synergize with Lunamon to help you constantly gain additional memory so that you can continue to make more plays during your own turn. And for the rest of the level 4s, I'm running Lanamon as my hybrid choice, but also so that you can tuck underneath a level 3 when you go into Hexeblaumon to play it out again. And yes, this is where we'll talk about level 5s where Hexeblaumon is the main focus of the deck. Effectively pairing it with Bukamon, Hexeblaumon becomes a 2-cost Digivolve. It's inheritable to enable your Hexeblaumon to make 2 swings, 4 checks in total, which is that main combo I'm trying to achieve. Also, for the sake of unsuspending, this is the exact same reason why I'm running Mat Galgamon that is restricted down to 1, simply because getting your opponents to 8 cards in hand is very easy to achieve. And don't worry, I'm still playing Paljamon from EX7, which it has Ice Clad, stripping sources, potential to unsuspend, giving piercing, and extra security +1 with its inheritable and a lot of value effects when it comes to a level 5. And of course, there's still Zudo Ace, which is a really good counter card, especially when it comes to stripping sources, which fits nicely in this deck. This is a Hexeblaumon deck after all, which is exactly why I am running 4 of it for sure. As we know, it has incredible effects, and it's just really important to actually help amplify that by running a core-based build to give you the most value when you bring it out. One of the worst feelings is that you spend all that effort and resources to bring out Hexeblaumon just for your opponent to easily remove it, and then you're forced to rebuild and go into it all over again for the exact same to happen. Which is why I experimented with so many different builds, and I finally concluded with this particular version. As for the secondary level 6, it can be open-ended based on your personal preference, but since the core engine is very similar to the Mirage build that's currently played, I think it only makes sense to include it as well, specifically the BT11 one. The card is really good at early game control and gaining memory, which is really important for this deck. For level 7s, I'm running Paladin Mode Ace, which strips sources, meaning it's just perfect in this deck anyways as its main game plan. I also have BT5 Blitz Omni to help me finish off the game when I go for the aggressive combos, and there are times where both these cards come up and synergize with each other so you can gain memory back. For Tamers, I got BT14 Jokido, just great to strip additional sources, and the earlier you can establish, the greater value it gives you in return, because as you climb up to your stack and take away more sources from your opponents, you can gain memory back. And then there's Davis for additional search and as my main memory setter. For the options, I'm maximizing efficiency when it comes to searching with Blue Memory Boost and Mental Training, making sure that we gather all the pieces we need to climb up into our stack, and then the one-off Ice Wall just for memory control and security surprises. If you guys are enjoying the new style of these deck profile videos, let me know in the comments down below. But not to mention, in Special Booster 2.0, we're going to be getting Ice Snow trait hybrid support with Tommy, which I'm definitely excited to upgrade this deck as well and be playtesting by then. So if you guys want to see more Hexeblaumon content and updates, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to stay tuned. And just want to give a huge shout out to AVAULT Club members in supporting the channel. Thank you guys so much. For tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include in this build, we also have the BT7 Kiramon, which lets you draw a card whenever you strip sources, Madoki Betamon as Memory Floodgate. There's also Frigimon, Hyogomon, and Sorcerermon, which all have the Ice Snow trait synergy if you're looking to go for more archetype based. You can also go for the blue hybrid route with Tommy, Kumamon, and Korikakumon with stripping sources and board control. If you want to strip even more sources, there's Sora Joe, Chris Paildramon, and Shogun Gekkomon alongside with Automamon and Gekkomon, which can strip sources during your opponent's turn. For source stripping option cards, there's Wave of Reliability, especially if you play quite a number of Joe Tamers. You can unsuspend your Digimon and attack again, summon Frost to bring Digimon back out, as well as Soul Ride to stop the board from attacking. Promo Gomamon and Hammer Spark can help you gain additional memory. For other level 6 choices, there's the older Hexeblaumon, which only costs 3 to Digivolve and can constantly strip sources turn after turn. Dianamon to do the same, to unsuspend and attack as well. And if you want to go for counter plays, there's Vicemon Ace to de-digivolve your opponent's Digimon. And speaking of more de-digivolving and removal, ST17 Magnamon is a great security bomb alongside with Full Moon Meteor Impact as well. Alright, for how to play and combo guide of Hexeblaumon, let's begin with the hand that you want to see for your opening when it comes to Mulligan. Very ideal, it's always a stack based building deck, so therefore you want to see your Betamon ideally, which is any other level 3. Aside from it, there's blue memory boost and mental training to help you fetch and search for pieces as you go up your Digivolution line. And very simple, you're just basically Digivolving up 3, 4, 5 and into your 6. So let's go ahead and start off with the very first main combo. It can be any rookie here in the back, it doesn't really matter, and all you need is access to some form of 2 memory, whether if you have blue memory boost or wisdom training. You also want to have Paildramon and a follow-up with Chris Paildramon. So here, if you have 1 memory, as long as you have a boost or mental training, that's totally fine. If not, start at 2 memory, whatever works. The whole main idea is so that you can just push up with your Betamon, so that as soon as you Digivolve into your Paildramon, you're somehow able to gain memory before that, or keep turn, or be at 0 at this particular moment. Once you get into Paildramon, you're going to strip some sources. Afterwards, it's going to gain jamming and blocker. Keep in mind, if your opponent has no Digimon on the board, it still gains jamming and blocker. This is where you can go attack with Paildramon with jamming, go for 1 check. If you didn't have Betamon in the beginning, that's totally fine. If you have a Betamon, double jamming, that's totally fine. Because the whole idea afterwards, you're just trying to end the turn with Chris Paildramon and strip additional sources. Once again, if your opponent doesn't have any Digimon, afterwards, even Chris Paildramon unsuspends if they have no sources in general overall. By establishing this level 5 on the board, because if your opponent doesn't have any answer to it, this immediately bridges you into a level 6 play in the following turn, meaning you get to get into Hexeblaumon. Alright, for combo number 2, you want to have access to a total of 3 memory throughout the entire turn, whether you have a Davis that starts you at 3, or even just one of the other mental training or blue memory boost if you start at 1 instead. So let's just say you have a mental training. Next, you want to make sure your opponent has at least 7 cards in their hand, because you're going to get into your Galgomon, Hwankumon, and then this helps you follow up and bridge right into a level 6 just with 1 memory and 1 sort of boost, which is absolutely insane. So you're going to push out with Betamon, and you're going to Digivolve into Galgomon here for 2 costs. Both you and your opponent are going to draw a card. Your opponent's going to have 8 cards in their hand at this point, so Galgomon is going to gain that memory back, being at 0. Next, this is where you're going to use your mental training to then Digivolve into Hwankumon for effectively only 1 cost. Hwankumon is going to use this when Digivolving effect to play out the Betamon. If your opponent has a Digimon that you can stun and prevent it from attacking, go ahead and do that as well with on-play effect. Now at this moment, because you played something with an effect from sources, with Bukamon, you get to gain that memory back, and you're going to be at 0 right here. And then for the follow-up, you can actually swing with Hwankumon for jamming if you want to, just before you finish the turn. But what the ideal state that you're going to end in is a Hexeblaumon, passing your opponent to 4 memory, and bottom deck their tamers, strip additional sources. And what's going to happen is if your opponent can't answer this Hexeblaumon immediately, the next turn you're going to be able to swing 4 checks in one go. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be Betamon, but if you have Lunamon, for example, this is going to help you also access into a game finishing combo the next turn. Alright, for combo number 3, as a follow-up from the previous combo, as long as you have 2 memory and if your opponent has 4 or fewer security, you essentially have lethal on the board right here. So starting your turn, of course, always hatching your egg, and you're not going to actually use the starter main phase of Lunamon to gain 2 memory unless you have other Digimon on the board prior already. But assuming this is what it's looking like, you want to have access into another Galgamon and any level 3 Digimon that is 3 cost to hard play. What's going to happen here is you're going to Digivolve into Galgamon here, and then both players are going to draw a card. Assuming your opponent's back at 8 cards in their hand once again, you're going to gain that memory back thanks to Galgamon. Then we're actually going to use the main inheritable effect of Lunamon tucking underneath the Galgamon because it is a Nightclaw Digimon to gain 2 memory. This is the moment where you can just hard slap any level 3 or specifically 3 cost rookie, and then you're going to swing with Hexeblaumon utilizing Hwankunmon's effect to tuck that level 3 underneath to unsuspend and making sure it has some form of jamming, whether if it's from the Galgamon or Betamon. So that's going to be 2 checks right there, and then you swing for another 2 checks jamming, getting rid of the rest of security, and Lunamon is going to finish the game off just like that. Now, in a different situation, assuming you don't have a level 3 to work with exactly just yet, and in the same position, then it might be a little bit more complicated because you're going to want to get into Galgamon once again for 2 costs, gaining the 1 back. I'm going to shuffle it up again to gain 2 with Lunamon. And this might require a little bit more because then you're going to be getting into another Galgamon from your hand, effectively for 2 costs, draw, gain 1 back. And then you're actually going to need your Hwankunmon again, Digivolve into Hwankunmon for 3 costs. Hwankunmon is going to play out the Lunamon specifically, and because of Bukumon's effect, it doesn't actually just see this particular stack. It can see any Digimon from any sources that as long as it's being played, you get to gain that memory back, and you're in the exact same position or very similar position once again, so that you can go ahead and swing 2 checks with Hexeblau, use Hwankunmon to tuck underneath that Lunamon for 2 checks, and then unsuspend, swing again, another 2 checks jamming, and then you can use Hwankunmon to finish off the game. If not, this board is just equally as good because this gives you access to another secondary level 6 or even Mirage Gal. And the nice thing about this combo, it doesn't require any additional setup, but if you ever have a mental training or blue memory boost, you can get access into it way a lot easier with fewer cards that you need to pull off and basically finish the game. If you still need to continue and pressure more, you can even go for Blitz Omni for game, or in any other situations, if you ever have a tamer or if you have additional memory to work with, you can easily go into Lanamon to finish that game that way as well. Don't forget to get your very own copy of the Star Shooter playmat and memory marker on the AVAULT store right now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. It is AVAULT, signing out.